as quickly as we can. It does look like Fnatic are ready. I am ready, and I'm sure all 1,500 viewers are ready for this first game in the best of 5 series. And we'll see how this turns out. It'll definitely be a lot of fun. We've got a full strength SK Gaming roster together, and I know that SK, they've been practicing a little bit more this last week and a half or so. Been putting a bit more pressure in, a bit more time, and of course leading up to the Season 2 finals at the end of October, they need to log as many hours as they can. And what better way to practice than by going up against Fnatic Recall. And you know, they've got a bit of a role reversal, a bit of a positional change now with Lamia having retired. But nonetheless, they've got the skill and the ability to do that. So before we kick this first game off in the best of 5, let's actually show everybody what we're here for. This is a Raid Call sponsored event. As you can see, it is one of the premier voice over IP software packages. It's free to use, free to play, and free to download. Go check it out at raidcall.com. This is the client that you're looking at. For those of you who don't know, you can actually change some of the skins, change some of the colors. We're going to stick with Fnatic Orange for today. And make sure you join us in Room Leet. That's 1337. It's really easy to get there. From your homepage, all you've got to do is punch in 1337, hit enter, and it'll bring you to the channel. Come chat with a couple of the guys that are involved, that are watching the game, and more importantly, if you check out this little room here that says Raffle Room, I'm going to be asking a question at the end of this very first game, and the first person to jump in there with the correct answer is going to win this Fnatic Modern White t-shirt. So check that out. There's some prizes to give away. There's some goodies to be won. I hear loads and loads and loads of chat spam. Apparently everybody's speaking all sorts of European languages. There's some French. There was a bit of Spanish earlier. So yeah, the players are having a little bit of fun with it. That is for sure. So yeah, guys, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in. This is just a show match. This is just for bragging rights and for the money. That's all these guys are running around with, running for. I've also just got a message from Harry letting us know that Xpeke will actually be joining the Fnatic Raid Call group that I am in at the end of the first game. So if anybody's got any questions for him, make sure you hit me up with him. Let me know. Probably the best bet would be either in chat or on my Twitter. Tweet at me at QuickShot. What would you like to ask Peke? Bans and picks, and SK immediately removing Jace. They know that Shem is Soaz. They know that he's playing on one of the Smurf accounts or one of the secondary accounts. So they just don't want to deal with that champion. They don't want to have him up in that top lane. So he has been removed from the pool and immediately replies with Alistair. Alistair is now out of the game as well in terms of picks and selections. And now we're going to see who else is going to be locked in here. Israel ban out once again, and very, very interestingly, no AP middles up until the 3rd ban, so finally getting rid of Orianna. Ocelot, of course, using Orianna to fantastic effect at Gamescom. It was pretty much on the back of his Orianna performance that they defeated CLG EU and knocked them into the 3rd, 4th playoffs, knocking them out of the semi-finals. 2 bans left in the pool, and a couple of champions that are quite scary to be thought about. Morgana, Shen, Diana. Syndra's in the pool as well, as we are playing on live. So I don't know if we're actually going to see a Syndra pick up. I've read a lot of things about this champion. People thinking she's not exactly the most powerful, not exactly viable, but you never know. It is a brand new champion. It is somebody that maybe they can throw an interesting strat in. Maybe they can throw interesting abilities together. So final ban is in fact going to be Yorick. So Morgana is there, and we know Ocelot has played a lot of Morgana. And it may actually be Diana. So there we go. Diana locked in. I'm already excited to watch this. The abilities that Diana can put together are so good. Using that crescent slash into the Lunar Rush, all sorts of abilities like that. We've seen some great jukes and some great getaways. Froggen, in fact, pulling off an awesome escape from the middle lane onto the Wraith camp when he was playing in the OGN finals. So it's a highly mobile champion, somewhat reminiscent of Ari, but of course, a little bit more skill involved in the placement, because you can only dash to targets that have been, once, and a secondary time if they've been affected by moonlight. So, it's either one blink or a max of 2. If more targets have been affected, you can jump more times. So what I'm trying to say is the difficulty involved with that champion. So Graves and Sona on the bottom lane for Fnatic. Somebody that has been playing a significant amount of Sona recently is myself, and I have come to love that champion. I still feel like she is incredibly powerful as a support, and very, very strong in that bottom lane. So I like the selection, I like the lock-in. I also like the fact that it's an AoE CC, so it's going to hold Corki in place. It's going to hold Diana in place, and not going to hold that. It's also going to cancel a Nunu. And so as he's using the account of Chem, he's having a little bit of a giggle. He's hovering over Katarina. It hasn't been locked in yet, but I don't know, Moonfall, that's probably going to interrupt it. There's nothing else yet, so maybe it would be interesting. For the guys that are asking about streaming abilities, Ocelot will be streaming the game. As this is a show match and not just a tournament, a lot of the players will be streaming, so you can't blame them to do that. It's really cool. And Katarina has actually been locked in, so we're going to see Katarina again. This is going to be obviously a Cat in the mid lane. Olaf could go jungle, or that could be an Olaf top lane. If it is going to be Olaf top lane, I assume it's going to be against Udia. Yep, because it's going to be Korku Nunu in the bottom, a Mumu in the jungle if this does get locked in. And yeah, it's interesting champions. It's champions you do not see every day. And I definitely like some of these collections of abilities. Absolute Zero in conjunction with Curse of the Sad Mummy, in conjunction with all of the damage that Diana can put down. Moonfall is going to hold them in place. In the last second, it does look like it's going to be swapped out to a Darius, maybe a Cho'Gath. Darius, Cho'Gath, Aranea, a little undecided who's going to lock in. And actually it's going to be Darius and Cho'Gath. At the very, very last second, we see 2 more swaps getting picked up. So the Rupture as well as the Feral Scream, that's going to be enough to interrupt that Katarina, who's most likely going to be in the top lane now. I mean, if I look at this is going to be top lane Cat. Yeah, they've swapped it over, so it's going to be top lane Cat. Cat is actually going to be played by Soaz, of course. And we see Peke hovering over Sona right now. Going to be swapped again. So many swaps happening. Who is going where? Fnatic are just trolling. That's all they're doing right now, is they're trolling me. They're listening to the stream, and they are driving me mad because everybody's moving around the whole time. Now, Cyanide is apparently going to be mid. This isn't cool. These guys are just full on troll mode. So let's look at the SK roster and the whole SK lineup until these next 10 seconds go down, because it's going to be interesting, that's for sure. Kevin, top lane Darius. Aranea, Cho'Gath in the jungle. Ocelot, mid lane, played by Diana. And then Corki and Nunu in that bottom lane. They're going to be running around with that one, having some fun with it. And now that we've seen everybody locked in, and now that all of Harry's boys can stop trolling me, we can actually see who's playing who. And what we are going to see is N-rated in the jungle. All right, so he has taken Cyanide's role. Cyanide is going to be playing AD carry, obviously in replacement for Lamia, who has just recently left Fnatic Recall to head over to the east. Now, Peke, who's usually the AP middle, is now going to be playing Sona, and Soaz, who's usually the top laner, is now going to be playing is actually going to be top lane Cat. I'm an idiot. Schleier is going to be in the mid lane with Morgana. So, interesting swap. Let's see how they're going to do this. Soaz with a top lane Katarina on this little bit of a Smurf account, 2190 in his masteries. RunePage has gone AP, move speed, magic penetration, and some flat armor. That's going to help out a little bit against Darius, but of course all of Darius's hemorrhage stacks is magic damage, so it's very difficult to burn through that, very difficult to chunk that down. 9-13-8 in terms of his masteries, so a little bit interesting there. And then of course the rune page, physical damage, armor, HP, and magic resistance. So I'm going to be trying to just get a little bit of extra tankiness early on in the game. I'd like to see how Schleier is going to be playing this mid lane Morgana. A huge elo, diamond across the board. 2109, opting to go for the additional mana regeneration. So that's quite interesting. You do tend to see Morganas going for the movement speed just to make sure they can stay in range of those soul shackles for as long as possible. And of course on the runes, Magic Pen, Magic Resist, Ability Power, and once again MP5. So yeah, pretty standard. His lane opponent will be Ocelot, and of course Mr. Ocelot is streaming himself. He has only gold in 3v3s, but let's not rag on him there. He's going to Season 2 World Finals, and I'll be at home watching. 2109 in the Masters once again. Mana regen, and that makes a bit more sense on Diana, because of course Diana, her ability power or her spells are somewhat spammable, and they do cost a lot of mana very early on. 8.5 Magic Pen, 3.5 mana per 5, ability power, and magic resist. So fairly cool across the board. A little bit of time left, so let's have a look how Peke is going to be playing his support Sona. This is the usual AP mid. He's going 121-8, so full defensive stats. In conjunction with that Aria of Perseverance and the Song of Celerity, he's going to get all the movement speed once he's above a certain amount of HP and some additional tankiness. Mana regen per 5, 2.8 additional mana per 5. That's at level 1, all right? That's base. And he's gone for 25 additional armor once again at level 1. So really just flat, low-level ability statistics is what he's going for. So guys, we are about to jump into this first game in our 5-match series. Thank you to absolutely everybody that's tuning in. This is the Fnatic Raid Call show match, which does of course feature SK Gaming and Fnatic. Sorry about the blindingly white screen. My league has decided to blind absolutely everybody, so I'm going to give it a moment to load up before I continue to destroy everybody's eyeballs. If you guys do have Raid Call installed, make sure you come jump over to Room Leet 1337. We're going to be doing a giveaway at the end of the first game. Whoever gets there stands a chance to win the Fnatic Modern White t-shirt. So, there we go. Game is loading up. We do need to look at the skin war. Oh my word. I have to give it to SK. I have to give this one to SK. An unskinned Sona and an unskinned Katarina against a full skin SK. Hot Rod Corky with those epic moustache curls, and Battlecast Prime Cho'Gath with those massive subwoofers on his shoulder. They're just too cool. Summoning, it's just RNA that we're waiting for. Maybe he needs to upgrade his PC. And once he has loaded up, we are live with this very first game. I do need to bring my overlays up, so let's make sure we've got this correct. Fnatic are on the other side, so give me a moment just to get my overlays correctly resolved, and they are now. So SK on the left-hand side, they are wearing the blue trunks in this matchup. Fnatic Raid Call over on the right-hand side, they are wearing the red trunks in this first game of 5. First team to get 3 victories will be the victor. They're going to take home that $500 and, of course, the bragging rights. And the thing that I'm so excited about is the fact that this new spectator client, it's so much easier to control the camera. Fairly early ward goes down, multiple pings, so everybody knows about it. Here's the vision that you can see. Everybody can pretty much see one another. We go to full vision. Dark Binding goes out. Doesn't manage to connect with anybody. And SK decides to go a bit aggressive. Movement speed is very high. 405 movement speed on Cho'Gath. He's going to carry on chasing. Rupture does manage to catch on Sona, but they're split. Aroni has committed 1 versus 3, has taken a lot of damage and poke. Now they're on the retreat. N-Rated is now chunking down Yellow Star. He hasn't put a skill point in yet. Does still have flash available. Is going to pick up Valkyrie and get to safety. Slayer doesn't actually throw out too many Dark Bindings, so unfortunately he doesn't hold anybody in place. But nonetheless, a fairly decent kickoff to this game. And I think I just need to minimize this little Raid Call banner on the top right of your screen. Make sure you come jump into room 1337. Room Leet, guys. It's going to be giveaway, 2 giveaways during the course of this match. Not the first one at the end of game 1. I need to look at Cho'Gath's movement speed here, because he's at 405 with tier 1 boots. So he's definitely running the movement speed quints, that is for sure. And I think he's gone movement speed most likely in the defensive tree and possibly even the utility tree as well, because he is motoring with that champion. So we'll see whether or not it's actually going to lead to any ganks. The mobility is definitely going to help, especially against a Katarina who's going to be using that Shumpo to jump back and forth, in and out of battle. And he's just going to be trying to juke in and out as quickly as possible. Of course, if he can get in range, land that Feral Scream and silence Peke before a crescendo can come out, that's also going to be huge. Himavalla goes down, plus an auto attack onto Yellow Star. A little bit of poke, but that power chord not chunking just as much as it does with 2 or 3 ranks into that power chord ability. Kevin in the top lane farming passively with a Decimate is going to put the first stack down onto Soaz's Katarina. Katarina, of course, has put the single point into Shippo and that single point into Sinister Steel. I would love to have seen the range in that ability. It's going to be a little bit smaller than Decimate, but the cooldown is significantly less, and of course it doesn't cost mana. So Katarina is going to be able to throw that out way more often, continually push the lane if and so required, or desired rather. Other than that, little bit of early pressure, a fairly slow start to this game. Enrated thinking about a dive in this top lane. Chem is going to land out those bouncing blades. And bounce a couple of times, 1 point to each of his core abilities. I'm going to carry on chasing in. 1 auto attack. I'm going to pick it up. A beautiful apprehend, and that's so much damage onto Kevin. The Ignite is going to pick it up, and that was really well done. The burst compensation with absolutely everything, the reckless swing, as well as 2 of those undertows, it really hit hard. Aroneo wants revenge though. Aroneo is going to be carry on chasing, has actually really got his eyes trained on the side and manages to land the Rupture. That was really nicely done. I don't think Aroneo thought he was going to land that ability, because after he threw out the cast, he immediately ran backwards. And it's such a pity, because if he had jumped in there, if he had continued to pressure, maybe some additional slow from that red buff, a little bit of a dive, they could have done something. First blood goes to Fnatic. Ocelot does get the damage shield and very nice dark binding from Schleier, but now that he's out of mana and a low health Olaf, only on 400 HP, he can't commit to another dive. He is forced just a little bit backwards. And Fnatic with the early lead in this game. The burst damage was immense in that top lane. I actually couldn't get over the full combination of abilities when Katarina lands that bouncing blade onto somebody. Enemies' hits are marked, and once the mark is consumed, additional damage is dealt. So you can see right now, Soaz and Kevin, they're trading somewhat evenly, bouncing back and forth. And yeah, once Katarina had actually landed the bouncing blade, Shunpod, Sinister Steel, plus 2 undertows and a reckless swing, it was huge damage, and it was really, really well played. So the support player for Fnatic, he assists in first blood. Katarina's got enough gold, or has actually already recalled. I had missed that. So he's going to get apprehended forward. Rupture's going to go down. An immediate flash from Soaz. Very, very good reactions there. So just jump to safety. Yellow Star is reduced fairly low. Exhaust and Ignite are available for both Peke and for Cyanide. So they put poke down. That was literally just a combination of the buckshot, of the power chord, and that Hymn of Valor. Just poke. And the fact that Nunu has no sustain, he has no ability to heal, it really hasn't played out. And this is so interesting to me. Aranea, before going GP10s, has picked up Boots of Mobility. Alright, so Boots of Mobility, plus all of his movement speed in the quints and in the rune pages. He's at 476 base movement, right? Imagine what that number is going to be once they get a Shurelya's Reverie. I mean, once a Shurelya's Reverie is up and running, it's just going to be, out of this world. And right, just thinking about a gank in this top lane, he doesn't have a red buff, unfortunately, so he'd be relying on the movement speed debuff from Undertow. And what a great burst there from Soaz. He's got 3 points into Bouncing Blades, is opting to go for the safe farm, as it were, and not maxing out Sinister. Aranea is hanging around here. And look at that dive. Now that Shimpo's down, Apprehend goes up, but that means that the Rupture misses. Now that the ultimate comes out, the Whirling Death, it's going to land some damage. Sinister Steel is going to pick up a kill. And Cho'Gath actually gets the kill credit there, so very, very nicely done. A little bit unfortunate from Soaz. He started throwing out his ultimate, that Death Lotus or Spinning Lotus, before the Feral Scream had come out. On the bottom lane, some poker's being traded back and forth. Yellow Star and Nif just trading back and forth. Now the Ice Boss is down. The Exhaust and the Ignite, but it's not going to be enough. Now they've turned their attention onto Nif. Buckshot is going to land, but the Visionary passive is up, so he's going to have a free cast of Ice Blast or Blood Boil. And extremely unfortunately, N-Rated has actually disconnected in the first 7 minutes. We do see a very, very quick pause, and some chat messages are going out. So let's see if this is colorful enough to have it on stream. It's all right. We can leave it there. We can leave it there. But a very, very nice kill from Soez in the top lane. He started getting that Death Lotus out, and it was cancelled very, very quickly from Cho'Gath. He got that Fiddle Scream up. The silence was down. And that's something that Soez has to be very, very careful with. The problem there is that, Rupture is going to interrupt it. Feral Scream is going to interrupt it. Apprehend will probably interrupt it. I think Moonfall will as well. So all of those movement displacement abilities, I haven't actually seen a Moonfall landing on Katarina. Maybe somebody in chat can confirm for me if that's going to be the case. But, there's multiple abilities that can interrupt it. And Aranea is going to be in a position where he can actually delay it, where he can actually save a Rupture or save a Feral Screen until such time as the Death Lotus comes out. And of course, the new Katarina, she gets a lot of her damage from the Sinister Steel. 3.8 second cooldown, it does very, very well. Other than the kills in the top lane, it's been fairly standard. Bottom lane has just been doing a little bit of poke, been doing what they can with that buckshot, doing what they can with the power chords of Sona, but not really getting any sort of advantage or any sort of numbers there. And for the guys that have just joined and the people that are asking, I can see in chat, what the we'll insert rude word there. Fnatic are having a little bit of role reversal this game. They're having some fun with it. And as you can see by the champions, support is playing jungle, jungle is playing AD carry, mid is playing support, and substitute in the form of Schleier, he's actually playing the mid lane as well. So we'll see how this works out. At the moment, Fnatic have the 2-1 advantage. 40 CS in the hands of Katarina, as well as both of those kills, in comparison to the single assist and only 28 CS for Darius. So a little bit ahead. If she can continue to snowball that, if Soez is going to be able to get a few more items and put some more pressure and then start roaming, the kills and the damage that a Katarina can put together is very, very scary. It's a great ganking champion. It's a great damage dealing champion. Cyanide says too much Spain in the game from Cyanide. He's having a little bit of a joke. So with N-Rated reconnected to the match, we see that the unpause comes out. And we can move this gold graph over to normal. Aranea freezes up this top lane. Doesn't steal. Not only does he not steal any of those creeps, he gives Kevin a very, very safe lane for the next couple of minutes. Unfortunately, he just misses that single CS there. But look at this huge, huge wave. Chem actually uses that Shunpo to jump forward. And of course, if anybody is watching, Chem is Soez. So damage ticket on the bottom line. Yellow Star and Nev. Now Pekka is a little bit over advanced. He's having no help from Cyanide. Cyanide is like, nope, you got to do this one on your own, Pekka. And unfortunately, Pekka didn't have that Hymn of Valor, nor did he have the power cord up. Otherwise, that could have been a double kill. A 200 health Yellow Star. Is he going to get in right? Flash forwards, lands the power or the Hymn of Valor. But it's not going to be enough. And that is immense. Pekka going hugely aggressive. He smelled blood. He wanted to take Yellow Star down, but Yellow Star got away with his life, and unfortunately that's a summoner spell blown. Fnatic have now pinged on the dragon. Undertow, Reckless Swing, and one of those vicious strikes is definitely going to help. Going to get that Q out, increase the damage and the ability power of both of these champions, allow them to deal as much damage as is possible. And with Schleier now coming down, oh, Aranea just walks past that Dark Binding with that huge movement speed, 476. A flash forward from Ocelot comes in. He's going to be able to use the Ignite plus the Lunar Rush to pick up the first kill. Double kill or second kill is actually going to go onto Yellow Star. Now Cyanide is going to be the third member to drop before Schleier is forced out of the fight. He used the Dark Binding, the Soul Shackles, but unfortunately, it was an Aranea in the top, and the Lunar Rush allowed Ocelot to just jump straight out of it. And that was the mobility that I was talking about, the fact that he could just get into the fight, use Lunar Rush over onto N-Rated, put the Ignite down, that's a guaranteed kill. And with those kills, the game is now even. I think they stole away that blue buff, unless it was picked up in the engagement. Yes, it was picked up in the actual kill by taking out N-Rated. And Chem doing quite nicely, in fact, there. Going to be using that Shunpo to jump out of turret range. It does take one shot for his troubles, but really, really nice poke ability. Really, really nice poke damage and focus from Soaz's Katarina. 63 CS to the 48, so not only does he have the kills and the farm advantage, but he's also got the GP10. Has been sitting on that KG's lucky pick, and an amp tomes that'll most likely become his Hextech Revolver. And there comes out, there's that Rupture, and look at those subwoofers ticking along. At base, once the boots of mobility have worn off, he has a 425 move speed. Once they kick back in, 476, and I'm telling you, time and time again, this movement speed is going to play into his favor. It's going to allow him to juke some skill shots, and it's going to allow him to chase. Now, Soaz is baiting for Kevin. Enrated is going to look for some trouble. There comes the Death Lotus. Eclipse plus the Death is going to carry on going out. One more Bouncing Blade is going to be enough to finish off the kill. And so nicely done from Soaz and Enrated. If I didn't know better, I would think that they had been practicing those ganks. They had been practicing that because the coordination is really, really good. Soaz is, of course, also using that Shimpo to jump in and out of danger. Getting to safety, getting himself out of a position where he can take more damage. And this bottom lane, all the ultimates are up and available. I'm not going to be able to do anything with it. That's the real question. Schleier is now going to be setting it up. The Soul Shackles goes out. It is going to stun him. Dark Binding, Ignite plus Tormented, and one last little auto attack gives Schleier another kill. And that evens us up 4-4 in this first game. And once again, a really, really good gank from Enrated. You have to feel that Enrated's jungling is very aggressive. It's very good. And SK being caught a little, being caught out a little bit. Almost every time Olaf comes into the lane, it's a good combination of either burst damage or crowd control, and that manages to hold them in place. So very, very nicely done. 4-4 in terms of kills, only that 1,200 odd gold difference. You can actually see how that equates on the bottom of your screen. You can see who's earning the most, who's actually generating that revenue. In the middle lane, Diana 201 and 100 Cs, and look at the damage there. Just the Hymn of Valor, a buckshot, and the power chord. It's enough to drop both of them down. So it's such good AoE damage. If they combine that with the Crescendo and maybe the help of Morgana or Katarina, it's going to be a double kill for Fnatic. That's how they're skilling up Cat. Max has maxed out the Bouncing Blades. Now at 2 points into that Sinister Steel. And I believe the Sinister Steel also gives a movement speed buff if it hits a champion. In the bottom lane, we do see pressure. Nunu is immediately blown up on the back of that Crescendo and Buckshot. Now Yellow Star is going to carry on chasing. Ocelot did jump in there, but before Ocelot was able to pick up a kill, Fnatic got one before losing one themselves. So they trade support for support, but SK Gaming had a third member there, so they gain the experience, they gain an additional assist, and it ends up being more beneficial to them. And look at that burst. Kevin simply cannot stay in lane long enough. Ocelot has that DFG finished and actually threw out the DFG onto Schleier. You can see the cooldown has been blown. Graves is farming up, and now we're going to see Aranea coming in. Soaz puts the ward down. Oracle's Elixir is right there, and it's so frustrating when you see that. You just put the ward down, and it's right in the face of somebody with an Oracle's Elixir. Schleier's going to get this blue buff. Head back to lane. His red is wearing off from that last kill that he picked up onto Aranea. Aranea is now looking for some more blood in their top lane. We have these explosive bursts and then moments of farm. Other than going for these kills once the junglers are around, the lanes are actually playing fairly passive. There's not too much poke going down, although as I say that, here we see another big engagement. Nif is going to carry on chasing. Absolute Zero gets channeled, and Pekka actually flashes out of it. So that's his flash now unavailable. Cyanide is still thinking about this fight, but doesn't have his collateral damage. And Yellowstar and Nif doing very, very well to control that lane. How are they actually doing CS-wise? 89 on Corki to 99 on Graves. Schleier does have Soul Shackles up and available. And was close enough to Ocelot to consider a gank, was close enough to consider going for a kill, but decided against it. Didn't think it was worthwhile. Throws out the Dark Binding. Unfortunately, the Wraiths are already gone, so not going to be able to pick them up. And this is very interesting to me. Soaz has opted to go for a Rylai's Crystal Scepter after picking up a Heart of Gold, and his KG's lucky pick. So he's got double GT10s, almost standard solo top bruisey tanker, as it were. has the blasting wand. Actually, now that I think about it, that could potentially be going into a Will of the Ancients, straight out Will of the Ancients, which would of course benefit Morgana if he did decide to go that route. But interesting like that. I'm reading some guys on chat saying they are getting some lag. If that is the case, just try dropping the quality settings. I do have, now look at this middle lane, Soul Shackles go out, RNA is going to try to disrupt them. The stun actually does not go down into Ocelot as he uses the Lunar Rush to jump to safety, followed up by a flash. Dark Binding at absolute max range is going to get the kill, but now that Soulways gets apprehended over the wall, he's the next one in trouble, and Undertow goes down. Schley is going to consider going out for the attack. Death Lotus puts a lot of damage down, but the Slam Dunk picks it up. Kevin with a great damage, manages to get secondary Slam Dunk. Is the hemorrhage going to be enough though? Schley has regenerated a lot of health, and that Black Shield will tick down the hemorrhage damage, but so nicely done. If that Dark Binding had landed, that would have been a dead Kevin. He manages to just sidestep it just once. But an awesome, awesome apprehend. It pulled Soulways from the top of that ledge into the middle ledge. Really, really nicely done. And that's right. Players have just reminded me I can, in fact, reorder the champions in the game. So let's get this set up that you can see AP middle facing off against AP middle, solo top against solo top, jungler against jungler, and of course carries and support. This is the newest update to the League of Legends client, and look at that huge CS advantage for Soulways is in the top lane, 4-2 up. Sinister Steel doesn't manage to land, so he doesn't get the movement speed buff, but the debuff, and a beautiful crescendo. Soulways is thinking about going for the dive, Moonfall pulls him back, now Absolute Zero goes out, but his Death Lotus gets completely mitigated because it wasn't actually used. But through the exhaust, threw up that Sinister Steel and did almost no damage. A really, really nice kill, and that was entirely set up by Nif. He jumped in there, landed that Ice Blast, slowed Soulways enough for Ocelot to jump in there with a Lunar Rush. And that was really, really nicely done. Great double kill in the middle lane. It's going to allow them to pick up the dragon. It was accidentally reset there, as you can see by it flying back into its little home pit. And of course, he's sorted himself out there. Move icons, so I put matchups next to each other. If you have a look at your lanes, guys, you can actually see that is exactly what I have done. On your scoreboard, your AP middle is against your AP middle, and of course all of your solo tops against one another as well. And Rated is now thinking about this fight in the top lane. Undertow goes out, the red buff is taking away. He's going to carry on chasing. His Undertow will be available in just a moment. Apprehend pulls him backwards. One more tower, he's going to stick to this fight. He's going to consider going for it. Ragnarok is now up, and he's going to be trying to run away. The Flash and the Shimpo comes out from Chen. Ignite, is he going to get in range for Sinister Steel? It will actually be enough. Now he's going to use that Shimpo to jump over to safety, because the cooldowns are, of course, refreshed. Compliments of the passive. Cooldowns down by 15 seconds. Multiple pings in the top lane. Undertow goes out, doesn't manage to find anybody. Some very, very good kills. Ocelot is looking for blood. If he can find Peke, this is normally a Lunar Rush goes forward, Moonfall, Pale Cascade goes out, Crescent Strike, and that's so much damage. Peke is forced to run to safety. Is he going to find the hands of Cyanide in time? That is the question. A beautiful Crescent Strike, but it's just not enough. 28 damage, 28. Ocelot still wants more. He's only got enough mana for one more ability though, and he's going to carry on chasing. Decides not to this time round. I'm going to run backwards, but such great usage of that that Crescent Strike. Double check, yeah, it is Crescent Strike. From max range and blind. So is now coming. Undertow is going to land. Going to land the Sinister Steel for that huge movement speed buff. Decides not to carry on chasing with no ignite in hand. Does not feel he's in a position where he can really burst somebody down. Look at the items that have been finished. DFG and a Haunting Guy. So really going for that early game burst. That huge, huge damage. Now Peke and Ocelot potentially going face to face. Absolute Zero comes out, immediately going to blow up N-Rated. This is a 4 versus 2 dive. Death Lotus is going to start being channeled. Ignite is not going to be enough to close him out. And the Slam Dunk from Kevin is going to be enough to pick up that kill. Now they're going to be chasing onto Ocelot. Crescendo is going to hold Ocelot down, but Peke is going to lose his life for this one. Unfortunately, Ocelot's going to try to deny himself a very nice Dark Binding from Schleier. Soul Shackles is now up, some auto attacks, and the Buckshot, well, actually it's not even going to be enough. The secondary tick of that Soul Shackles will be enough to close it out. But you know what? 11-8 up, 2 towers to 1, and a 600 gold advantage. They're doing very, very well at the moment. SK are forcing down this next tower. Schleier does land a Dark Binding as well as that Tormented, and it's going to hit fairly hard. Has a Negatron Cloak as well as a needlessly large rod, so hasn't revealed if he wants to go Death Cap first or if he's going to work towards a Zhonya's Hourglass. I anticipate an Hourglass, although I don't know, it's going to be interesting. We'll see how he what he does decide to build next. You know, coming up against Cho'Gath with magic damage, Corki with magic damage, Diana with huge magic damage, Nunu magic, Darius's hemorrhage magic. It makes a lot of sense to pick up that Negatron early, you know, give some survivability, add that to the sort of natural lifesteal and black shield that you can survive, and doing fairly well with that champion. 152s to 157 from Ocelot, 325 in Ocelot's hands, 201 in Schleier. Graves has just finished his Infinity Edge, so i.e. Berserkers and Double Dorans. And of course, on the flip side, i.e. Berserkers Double Dorans as well. See the gold numbers on the bottom of your screen. You can see exactly who is earning what and how it actually equates in terms of their itemization. The gold is completely even right now. We haven't seen a huge team fight engagement. What we've seen is very, very good skirmishes, very good ganks, very good pressure from multiple team members onto the opposing squad, but no massive engagements just yet. You know, we haven't seen these 4 versus 4s or these 5 versus 5s. And this is what I'm talking about right now. Aranea is going to be moving at 475 movement speed. Rupture goes out, doesn't manage to catch anybody. Nif is now going to turn his attention to Cyanide. A Crescendo is going to delay the inevitable for a little bit. Graves actually still alive, gets a collateral and another buckshot. Nif, if he can eat one more attack, is it going to be enough? Pekka is chasing. The Hymn of Valor goes out, it's not going to be enough. Now that the Ice Blast is there, Pekka is definitely not going to be able to get to safety. He's going to try and get into range and is not going to be able to do so. And that means he is going to go down. Ocelot's did actually lose his life as well, but I'm not quite sure how that one played out. Schleier's going to carry on chasing. Is he going to be in a position where he can pick up a kill? The Dark Binding does land onto Nif. Now the silence comes out, so there's no Soul Shackles. And without having too much mana, there's not really going to be enough there for that Soul Shackles, unfortunately. But a very, very nice Feral Scream. So he's thinking about picking up something in that top lane. Does have his cooldowns available. And then Rated is now coming up from behind. Going to stop in this top tri-bush, is anticipating some movement, but Kevin smells it. Kevin's spider senses are tingling, and he knows somebody's nearby. So he is now backing up. Yellow Star moving to this top lane, and you know, with this extra kills, these extra farm, and the fact that there's a couple more GP10s in the hands of the Fnatic players, they are actually 2,000 gold ahead. So, you know, they're down on kills, but they have picked up that extra kill. I believe they may have picked up a dragon as well. And of course the tower, you know, is really playing into their favor. Schleier's Morgana has finished that Zhonya's Hourglass and is working towards an Abyssal Scepter. And I really like that pickup. The Abyssal Scepter in conjunction with Katarina, you know, jumps in there, puts the Soul Shackles down, throws out the Zhonya's Hourglass, and immediately, you know, gets some safety. Dragon goes down, and I think there was actually a feast that was used to pick it up, and it was. So 5 stacks onto Aranea's Cho'Gath. He has got some epic subwoofers. And now we see some engagement. Yellow Star is going to go over. Dark Binding catches it. Can they blow Yellow Star up? The Soul Shackles is going to manage to land onto 3. It is going to get the stun. That's going to lock him up. But the Death Lotus looks like it was interrupted. In fact, has not been used just yet. Finally does get started. Flash over the wall. Double, triple flash from Fnatic. That is a triple kill coming out for Cyanide. Can he get the Quadra? Is that even possible? You know, decent split there from Nif and from Ocelot to get to safety. And was some focus down onto Katarina. Immediately got blown up. I was fairly certain that Death Lotus was interrupted, but of course having the assists means the cooldown gets reset and is available for usage. But a triple kill for Cyanide, 4-2-2. Do you think we are going to see a Cyanide AD carry for Fnatic? N-rated going to the jungle, Pekka moving to support? What do you guys think of that one? Don't forget guys, after the first game, we will be giving away a Fnatic t-shirt on Raid Call. And in order to do that, Nif is actually going to come in here, starts channeling, tries to set something up for a consume. Unfortunately, doesn't manage to do it, but he sets up enough damage that Ocelot has got one. Ocelot's gone for a double. He's going to carry on chasing. So much damage. Yellowstar's going to pick up another one of the fight. Apprehend's going to hold Cyanide in place. We're going to follow Soaz as he tries to get to safety. Out in the background, Cyanide is going to carry on fighting. He's going to pick up the kill onto Kevin. Now Cyanide's going to carry on chasing. With that Baron buff in the background, Soaz is stuck onto Aranea. How are these people still fighting? Going to continue dealing damage. It's going to go down. Another kill for Cyanide. So it ends up being a 3-for-4 exchange. But SK Gaming don't mind that. SK Gaming don't mind that exchange too much because they've removed the Baron buff from all of those members. The people who are asking about the Raid Call channel, in order to join it, in order to jump on board, all you guys have to do is install a client, obviously create your account, and join the room 1337, guys, 1337. So that is the room lead. That is Fnatic Raid Call's room. Make sure you jump into that one and stand a chance to win that Fnatic t-shirt. There are 2 to be given away. We're going to be giving away 1 at the end of this game and 1 more a little bit later on, probably after the 2nd or the 3rd game. I'll decide that one. You'll have to stay tuned to actually find out when that happens. So we see that Oswald's pushed this in. Rating has actually gone in, picked a bit of a fight, didn't realize so many members of SK were there. Forced to use Ragnarok to just get to safety, but with the rest of the Fnatic members joining the engagement, they should be in a position where they can steal away this blue buff, relatively uncontested. Pings onto this top tri-bush, and Fnatic are thinking about this gank, thinking about hiding in the bushes, setting something up in play on the back of those last dead. It's going to land the Rupture both onto Peke and to Enrated. There's no Ragnarok. Peke gets completely blown up. Now they're going to turn their attention over to Enrated. So much damage and slow. That Undertow is very, very powerful, but Olaf with Ghost, he's just going to carry on chasing and carry on running. 4 members of Fnatic are now trying to put themselves into a safe position. Dark Binding goes out. Ocelot and Aranea. Rupture actually catches Slayer. They decide not to chase. And a very, very nice kill for SK Gaming. Pick 1 up onto Peke, catching him completely out of position. Completely caught out. And we'll see how this one plays out. Soaz is going to carry on chasing. A very, very nice Rupture from Aranea. Sinister Steel goes out from Soaz, so he gets that movement speed buff. Dark Binding almost catching onto the tail there of Ocelot as he tries to get to safety. Fairly low, but he does in fact make it away. Aranea is going to be recalling, so this is a bit scary now. There's only 2 members of SK are left to defend this middle lane. The wave is cleared very, very quickly though, so no creeps to tank this tower, and we'll keep the scoreboard off while we see Schleier's trying to set something up. Dark Binding unfortunately doesn't catch onto anybody. Good wave clear from SK. A nice Undertow. And this Mexican standoff is taking place. This Mexican standoff where both teams are looking for that engagement, looking for the opportunity to catch somebody. Olaf and Graves, not necessarily the best targets, but if they can blow up Cyanide, he is the member of the team that has got 2 triple kills already. Crescent Strike goes out once again. Another Rupture lands onto Cyanide. Cyanide is catching every Rupture with his face, it appears. Now he eats a Crescent Strike as well. Little bit slow there on that Black Shield, so he unfortunately gets chunked down there a little bit as well. So they're going to carry on looking, going to carry on trying to set something up. Dark Binding almost catching Ocelot. And you have to feel, if it gets picked up, if they land a Dark Binding, they're going to just dive onto everybody. They're going to commit to that fight. Rupture goes out, Crescent Strike, they manage to pull Peke forward. The tower is now down. This is the engagement crescendo blown just for Aranea. They're going to carry on chasing with the Undertow being down. The first kill, the Bouncing Blades damaging both Nunu and Darius. Going to carry on putting some DPS down to this tower with us. The Deathfire Grasp goes out and somehow the Dark Binding misses. Tower's down to half, but Yellowstar, from just a Bouncing Blade and a DFG, uses 50% of his hit points. Fnatic are in the driving seat. Fnatic are in a position where they can just force this tower down. They may consider to stick around for the inhibitor. No, decide they don't want to bite off more than they can chew. And instead make the wise decision and back off. Immediately move back. Immediately get to safety. Picking up the dragon, they're going to shove out both this top and this bottom lane most likely. Oh, Yellowstar might be in so much trouble. Dark Biting whiffs, that's the problem. Soul Shackle manages to land onto 3. Valkyrie's going to get into safety, but that means it's going to be Darius and Nunu stunned up. Collateral damage picks up the first of the fight. Death Lotus in the background. Is Cyanide going to do more? That is the question. Morgana is now down. Cyanide jumps back into the fight. That's a double kill. He's looking for more. He's trying to juke. Look at him at the back of the fight. This is the player that you need to be careful of. Feast lands onto Cyanide, but does he have any lifesteal to stay in this fight? That's the question. Olaf is going to pick up one more pick here, lands both the power chord and that Hymn of Valor, trying to juke past Aranea. The big one gets flashed. What a move. Really nicely done there. Ends up being a trade 3 for 3. Aranea's got such high hit points and incredible movement speed. He's chasing, places a ward down. He's going to try cut Cyanide off. Cyanide has no lifesteal other than those Doran's blades. Does manage to juke one auto attack. Going to carry on. Rupture goes up. That's going to land into Sona. Aranea gets a little bit split decision there and goes, maybe I can get Sona before going down himself. Great play there from Cyanide and Picket. Cyanide being a little bit brave, a little bit cocky, I think, but a well-deserved kill. And a great team fight from Fnatic. They actually, without being too overly critical here, that Soul Shackles wasn't necessarily the strongest of Soul Shackles. It only managed to catch 3 members of SK. The Dark Binding did not hold Corki in place. If Corki had been locked down in that engagement and killed early, that would have been, a 4 for 0 exchange or a 4 for 1. Nonetheless, picked up a lot of kills. They lost the dragon for it. And now they are moving around the map, looking for that next engagement. The Baron buff will be up very, very shortly. All right, once the Baron is up, that is going to be the next engagement. That is going to be the next one, and is most likely going to cause the big fight. And look at those gold differences. 3 members above 10,000 gold, 3 members above 11,000 gold, in fact, on the Fnatic roster, and only 2 above 10k for SK Gaming. 6,000 gold difference. And I'll tell you something, Katarina is not doing bad. 566 right now. Movement speed buff coming out from that Song of Celerity. And give them as much movement speed as possible. And with the Baron up, I think Fnatic are going to shove this top lane wave and then put themselves in a position to either take Baron or take SK out when SK are going for Baron. That is what I think they're thinking about. Enrated goes in, takes a lot of damage, uses Ragnarok. He's gone in alone. He's going to be the first one to fall, immediately blown out. Nip uses that Absolute Zero just to completely zone out. And that was great play from SK Gaming. Enrated, expecting his team to be there a little bit quicker. I think he was trying to force a fight that felt like he wanted to fight, that felt like he wanted to engage, and he wanted the rest of Fnatic to engage with him. But unfortunately, they just weren't there quickly enough, and now SK hard on the retreat. Fnatic, they just want this inhib. Fnatic just want to get the inhib and run out. This is a 4v4 because Yellowstar's not there, and they've got to be so careful. A good crescendo in this little valley. Dark Binding goes out, doesn't manage to land onto anybody. Flash, crescendo, Soul Shackles, immediately blown up. Cyanide with a double kill. The Death Lotus plus the Sinister Steel. Bouncing Blades, DFG is going to be enough. Cyanide going toe-to-toe with Yellowstar. And that was what I was talking about. You cannot group up in that little place when the enemy has Sona. That's a free inhib, and that's a free Baron. They're just chilled all together. I mean, look at the corpses of these bodies. 1, 2, Diana, I think, has got a different death animation, so she's not there. But nonetheless, just immediately deleting them, locking them up. And when you add the damage from Soul Shackles, the burst, you add the damage from Death Lotus and Sinister Steel in conjunction with the Abyssal Scepter debuff as well as the Tormented Soil debuff. It's just a lot of magic damage. If Yellowstar gets slowed at all, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Chem is going to carry on chasing. Does get blown up before he manages to pick up a kill, though. And I think so is overestimating his burst and his survivability a little bit. He hits a full frontal, Phosphorus Bomb, Missile Barrage, and Infinity Edge Phantom Dancer crit, and immediately closes them out. But I mean, look at the carries, 9-2-5 and 12-2-5. Outside of all the towers and the additional kills, I mean, it's a story of AD carries. Morgana and Katarina have just offered more protection and more damage, upfront burst, to allow Graves to close it out. A little bit easier than what Corky's been able to do. And you can see he's effectively 3-shotting and 4-shotting that red buff or the Elder Lizard. SK aren't out of this one just yet. They are 1 inhib down. And it's possible to pull it back. The longer this game goes, the more damage and the more survivability Cho'Gath is going to offer, the more damage Darius is going to offer. The only problem is they don't have the tank ability. You know, Morgana is going to be able to just, she's got magic resist, she's got armor. What are her statistics at the moment? I mean, look at this, 133 armor, 96 MR before getting in range of Sona and the buffs from that Aria of Perseverance. In addition to the Black Shield, you know, Katarina's got instant cooldown reduction. Olaf is very, very tanky. He's got another chain vest to add to his Warmogs. I don't know if he's going to go for the Atmogs build. It's a build that we have not seen in a very, very long time. But he does have a chain vest up, so my guess is either going to be a Guardian's Angel or an Atmogs Impaler. And we'll just have to see how it actually plays out. The Rupture comes up from Aranea. Does eat a Dark Binding, and look at the damage. That's meant to be like one of the tankier champions on the SK lineup. And he loses 450, 500 hit points from a single Dark Binding. That ability is hitting, you know, over 600 damage before resistances, so it's just really, really, really high. 22-26. Fnatic have picked the next target, and they would like this top lane tower. Dark Binding goes out. Yellow Star manages to stay out of range and keep himself alive. Rupture goes down, puts some damage down, and Rated lands one undertow, picks up his axe, throws out another undertow. Now we see a flash fall from Yellow Star. Bouncing Blades plus the DFG means he's immediately removed from the fight. He needs to recall. And for the better part of the next 10 seconds, Fnatic have a 5 versus 4 engagement if they want to pick this one. Keep in mind that the Guardian's Angel is on there. That's a Dark Binding. Tormented Soul is down. Soul Shackles comes out, immediately followed up by the Zhonya's Hourglass, and my camera goes freaky. Schleier forced to flash away before any stun goes down. Nobody else Fnatic wants in that fight, so they caught Ocelot out, but nobody else committed. The Rupture's going to hold and Rated in place, and now all of a sudden SK have the better position. And a little bit of split decision. Oh, we do see a flash. 172 crit. Ocelot forced to flash to safety as well. Cyanide playing very, very aggressive. He's got that red buff on. He's looking for kills. He wants more. The rest of Fnatic just aren't 100% on the same page. Dark Binding catches out Kevin. Are we going to see a dive now? There's no Soul Shackles available. So, you know, it's not ideal. Schleier tried to make a play. Schleier tried to make a move. But of course, Schleier's the odd one out right now. Schleier's the non-Fnatic member. So as in Rated, Cyanide and Peke have all been playing together for a little while. Crescent Strike goes out, doesn't catch anybody. And unfortunately, I think that was just a little bit of split focus there. I think there was a little bit of Schleier going, you know what, I can do this, I can jump in. Fnatic not being 100% certain. Ghost comes out from Rated. They're going to try to get into position. Yeah, Peke has Flash and Crescendo. He eats a Crescent Strike. And it's just the standoff. It's literally, once again, this poke battle. You know, waiting to see who gets into the best position. Oh, that's a very nice Dark Binding. Crescendo, that's only for Ocelot. Now they've decided to go for the engagement, but they caught absolutely nobody. Peck is forced out of the fight before he goes down, dropped to about 50 odd HP. Nif eats a Dark Binding. Chen throws out those Bouncing Blades once again. Chen, of course, is Soaz, but when you're reading the names, it's a bit hard to remember. And Peke, yeah, questionable Crescendo. Questionable Crescendo from the Spaniard. He only caught Ocelot and nobody else jumped in after, so unfortunately no kill was secured and no kill was picked up. He's going to be forced back with the inhibitor respawned. A Baron buff has worn off and has been worn off for a little while, so I anticipate we will see the Baron respawning within the next couple of minutes. It should be up before the next 2 or 3 minutes wear out. And once again, that's going to be the scene of the next big engagement. But the key here, SK are holding. SK are defending their base. They're defending the inhibitors that remain. And if they can pick a fight that is good for them, if they can pick a place that is a good engagement, they can win a team fight and they can push these lanes down. Darius, Corky, Diana and Blood Boil are all very, very good at clearing out towers. And interestingly, we are seeing the Atmogs build. So, Enrated showing a little bit of old school jungling, a little bit of old school itemization from his jungler, because of course Atmos was incredibly popular not too long ago, in fact, if I'm honest. It did fall out of favor a little bit in favor of some of the either team-based aura items or some more survivability. Arena 4 stacks on his Cho'Gath. Playing some music for everybody, as I'm sure you can hear that. And still jamming to the music. Aranea is more interested in taunting his enemies or dancing to his enemies than combat right now. But you know what? The soundtrack is cool. And he eats a dog biting. This could cost him his life. Is it going to? Fnatic jump in there and they deal 50% of his life. 50% of his HP just on the back of a taunt dance, on the back of a taunt song. But at the very least, you know they're having some fun with it. At least you know he's enjoying his time. That Dark Binding got so close to Yellowstar's tail. Undertow goes out, catches onto Kevin. Morv Malmortier, Sheen, and Phage completed. Dark Binding now catches Nif, but it's not the ideal target. And knowing that Cyanide and Peke are, away from the team, they're going to carry on chasing. This is bad for Fnatic. They could potentially be caught out. Peke decides to go left, uses a crescendo to save his life, but it's not going to be enough. He flashes away. He's going to be carried on chunking down. Now the rest of Fnatic have jumped in there, and SK are the ones that are out of position. Yellowstar does pick up the kill solo, but we're going to stick with this big team engagement. And SK and Fnatic. Fnatic are 4 versus 5, and there's no crescendo available. Olaf uses his Ragnarok, is going to chase, flash forward, is going to use the Soul Shackles, is going to manage to stun. Only Yellowstar right at the back of the fight. Who's going to go down? That's the Guardian's Angel proc for Yellow. Soaz picks up the first kill of the fight, immediately following up onto Kevin. Now we see Soaz picking up a double kill. Going to carry on sticking with him. Can Arena and Yellowstar get away? That is the question. Peke got caught out of position. Soaz is going to carry on jumping. Shun pose forward, bouncing blades, realizes that he cannot go toe-to-toe. 3 members of Fnatic are now going to chase down this tower. Tanking it up, pick up the tower. Now take out the inhib and then rotate over to the middle inhib. Wait for Olaf and Sona to respawn and then go for the Baron. In actual fact, they may just rotate straight to the Baron right now. The damage that is coming out from a Deathcap, Void Staff, DFG, and Haunting Guys on Soaz is just immense. 547 ability power. And look at that spell penetration, 49 plus 46. On the flip side, you've got Schleier with 30 and 46%. And of course, that's before you consider all of the Abyssal Scepter debuffs. You know what I mean? As soon as you move all of the Abyssal Scepter magic resistance, is going to increase the damage even further. So, really, really good play. Peke, a little bit of poor decision making there. Got caught out over at the blue buff. Schleier does have Soul Shackles available. It's going to be enough. Lands the Dark Binding onto Yellowstar, actually. And take a look at the damage. 1 Dark Binding and Tormented is enough to drop them to 50%, and that is key. That is so powerful, because if this next fight does engage, and if this fight does actually jump into place, then Yellowstar is already at 50% HP. He does have some lifesteal with that Vamp Scepter, with that Zeke's Herald, and the attack speed bonus that it gives him. So that'll at least help out, especially if he gets a couple of criticals. But I gotta be very, very careful. 24 to 29, 9,000 gold. Fnatic have snuck themselves into a very, very useful position. Crescendo is available. Can Expector get a good ultimate? That is the question. It's going to land a little bit of a slow. Kevin's going to get dropped. The Soul Shackles has been used. We do see a Crescendo down into Ocelot. He throws out his Zhonya's Hourglass to stay alive for as long as possible. Pale Cascade is keeping him alive for a little while. Now the next target is Yellowstar. He goes down to the red buff of Cyanide. Guardian Angel has now procced, and he's going to carry on chasing Aranea, looking for some damage. Cyanide will close him off, and they're going to carry on chasing on to Nif. Undertow will pick up the final hit, and that feels like a game-winning fight. Fnatic closed this one out 34 to 24. A surrender vote from SK Gaming. And they pick up the first game in this series of 5. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, 5 games. The first team to 3 victories will be the overall winner. So, I'm just waiting for the stats screen to pop up. And as soon as it does, we will, of course, jump this game up and running. We are going to